25. This hybrid meeting is being recorded and may be accessed by WebEx. The meeting link is on the calendar at burlington.org. All of our members are here in person tonight, so there is no need for roll call votes. If connectivity is lost and we have a quorum in person, which we do, the meeting will continue. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on our agenda is the approval of the warrant. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any question, any comment?
My question
You're all
was
set
answered.
with your question? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye. Yes.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? That's 5-0. Next item is approval of the meeting minutes from 2/11/25.
So moved. Second.
Is there any question or discussion on that? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? That's unanimous. Public participation. This segment is for public comment on items that are not on our agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone either online or in person for something not on the agenda? Okay, come on up. I see familiar faces.
His friends of his that we draft school commander reading.
What, just start reading?
It is in reference to the school calendar.
Yeah, you guys can be involved in that conversation. We're going to talk about the start time for calendar. Is that part of what this is about?
Not entirely. It's about the kindergarten start time.
Yeah,
a little
we are
different.
going to mention that in the calendar, but again, I want you guys to be part of it. We should get to the calendar very, very quickly.
Would you rather speak now or wait?
Why don't you wait, because we may answer your questions, but we want to hear from you anyway, if that's all right?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay.
Melissa, again, we'll have you write up, I promise.
All right, well, with one small detour, because I have something unusual here tonight. I have a letter from a 5th grader named Mulan. And I won't read the whole thing, but I want this individual 5th grader to understand that I have received and read his letter, and I'm pretty happy to have it. So it's about homework, and it starts by saying, should kids be pressured with homework? And this 5th grader believes the answer to that is no. Now, it's a lengthy letter that I won't read all of. I'll just read the very end of it, which says that having a lot of homework isn't the best for kids' health. In conclusion, kids should get less homework because they could get stressed and anxious, spend too much time on the homework, and not have time to get active. The school committee, since you have the power to stop this problem, please do it now. So, I want this individual child to understand that I completely understand his concern, and I would like Dr. Conti to let us know at the next meeting what the homework policy/practice is for the elementary students. And you can read the letter and see the suggestions in here as to how much time. The research shows that kids in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade should get 1 to 3 assignments each week, taking them no more than 15 to 20 minutes, and kids in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, 2 to 4 assignments each week, taking 15 to 45 minutes. Yet sometimes people get more than that. So I think we need to look into this, and I am very pleased to get a letter from one of our 5th grade students. Okay. Moving on. It's not me. Okay. Information and report, student report. Rashida.
Okay, so the new business is that we have the 2 juniors for Student Government Day, which are Moran and Ula. We're planning on doing a future Spirit Day week before the seniors leave, so, because they're gonna leave before the week of April vacation. So we wanna do like a St. Patrick's Day theme thing, and then teachers dress as students, and Twin Day, but we're doing a twist on it, which is getting everyone to wear the same thing, and the biggest group who has the same thing on wins something. And then we did have some problems with fundraising in the school because not all the fundraisers were getting relayed to like the executive board and Mr. Milton. So we're trying to get all the clubs and all the advisors to send their ideas for fundraisers and get it properly approved to Mr. Milton and the executive board. And then other than that, the seniors are doing their final babysitting night on March 22nd. And they're going to try to reach out to Cookie Monster for a fundraiser because they're getting 50% of the proceeds towards prom. And the juniors are doing their semi-formal dance on March 14th. And they're trying to do hand-printed invitations. But the actual semi-formal with the sophomores and the freshmen is on May 16th. They're doing pie sales for November of next school year, so I guess they're on top of that. And then the freshmen are doing their World's Finest Chocolate fundraiser. And I think they're sending out boxes for free right now, but then they're getting repaid 30 days after. And they're selling chocolate before and after school and not during lunch. And that's it.
Okay. Got any questions or comments?
We asked everything before the start of the meeting, but in general, things are going okay?
You had a private talk, huh?
Yeah. So we're doing all right?
We are waiting with bated breath for your college
think-
choice.
Only in May, because I don't want to make a decision too quick till I get everything and all the financial aid and everything situated.
So we have a
You
long
can't make us wait. This is about us, not,
Yeah, exactly. You can tell us our choices, at least when
no.
I think I'll put it out for a list, and then you guys can choose, and then,
we can vote.
yeah.
We could vote.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is subcommittee reports. Are there any subcommittee reports? I'm always looking at Jeremy.
So I will hold off on the field because there's a portion in the agenda for that.
Okay.
I will make one quick plug for the Recreation Commission. The spring flyer is out as of today, and registration begins for March. So download the flyer, pick out the programs you want, and registration for Burlington Town residents begins March 4th, 6 p.m.
Okay. Any other subcommittee reports? Okay. Ways and Means. Cheyenne, I see Cheyenne is online. Do you have anything for us?
Thank you. No, we have nothing to report at this time.
Okay, thanks for being there, Cheyenne.
Thank you.
Next item, other announcements. Anyone have any announcements?
Not right now.
Moving on, Learning, Equity, Thriving, School Choice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bob, I'm not to touch the mic, correct? So that's, we're all set. So I think many of you have been through this process before. We are a limited school choice district. So Principal Sullivan is again recommending that for the 25-26 school year, we continue to offer limited school choice by admitting non-Burlington resident students for a maximum of 10 students in grade 9, 5 students in grade 10, 5 in grade 11, and 5 students in grade 12. And again, if only the high school participates in school choice, then the requirement is for the committee to formally omit school choice for grades K through 8. So you're actually voting to not do school choice grades K through 8, and then limiting the seats that are available in grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then this is a first reading. We don't expect a vote tonight, but if people would like any additional information, I can certainly prepare that. We need to have a public hearing, so we need to schedule the public hearing. So at your next meeting, Madam Chair, you'll have to open a public hearing. We'll have to sort of hear that and then close the public hearing and then take the vote. We've been doing limited school choice now for, I don't know, 16, 17 years, I think. We started when I came. Nicole, the school choice revenue that we receive is a portion of the state's funding for students, and it comes into a revolving account that you see every month. So that's the source of the school choice revolving account would be from the students who attend, the non-resident Burlington students who attend.
Any comments or questions? I just have one. Do we have to give reasons for not having it in the elementary level?
No, it's really up to the committee, and it's really driven by space, but you have to understand, once you accept a choice student, that student has access to the school system
Yeah.
through graduation. So if you were to open up school choice at kindergarten, then that spot would carry all the way through.
Okay. Next item is out-of-state travel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Middleton Cox has shared a list of students who want to attend the Winter Percussion Ensemble. The trip is Saturday, March 15th from 12 to 6, Salem High School in Salem, New Hampshire. Again, you had the information in your packet. I think this is a trip that they sort of typically go on, and obviously it's right over the border, but it's recommended the committee vote on out-of-state travel request for Saturday, March 15th, 2025 for the high school and middle school students to attend the Winter Percussion Ensemble in Salem, New Hampshire.
I move that we allow the students to attend the Winter Percussion Ensemble in Salem, New Hampshire.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I have a question about the out-of-state travel policy overall. This is one of our MASC policies. This is I mean, I could look it up, but I feel like it's not in anyone's best interest for us to approve people going to Salem, New Hampshire, Manchester, New Hampshire. Is it within our purview to define out-of-state travel for overnight, or like further define that in the policy?
I think as a committee, you can define
Yeah.
or refine the policy however you'd like. We've always used the state border is
Okay.
what we've used. Again, there could be a longer in-state trip.
Right, that's exactly my point. You go to Worcester, it's longer than going to Salem.
So again, I could pull the policy if you want to see the specific language.
Yeah, I can do that too. I'm just curious.
I can give you the history.
Go ahead.
One thing about being here a long time. It was quite a long time ago that there were budgetary questions about travel. And one of the constraints that was put in was to require approval for all out-of-state travel, so that the school committee was aware. It's mostly so that we're aware. I don't recall ever refusing one, but you don't get a warrant that has out-of-state travel listed that we didn't know about. So the policy is really to keep us aware and to keep controls so that people aren't going on out-of-state travel or taking kids without our knowing it.
Yeah, but my point would be like, it could cost more money to do 3 nights overnight in Worcester versus 6 hours in Salem, New Hampshire. So if we're looking to have eyes on it, I feel like we could define it differently than simply out-of-state travel.
Yeah, we could make it all travel.
We
Set a
could-
mileage threshold or a dollar
Yeah,
value.
a dollar amount would,
Well, yeah,
yeah, we could bring it up in the future. I'm happy to look at the policy. It just seems silly to approve folks going for 4 hours, 30 miles away.
Is there a dollar amount threshold now, or if, no, okay.
No. And adult travel tends to be different from student travel, so whether it's budgeted or you've approved some travel where people have been sort of invited to present. And so, again, it is really a communication vehicle,
brings it all to the public.
is sort of what, what it is. But I'll pull the policy, Ms. Massardo, and you can certainly look at it, and the committee can make changes to policy as a committee, I think, whenever you'd like.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, I believe. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Yes.
Is anyone opposed? It's unanimous. Next item is the 25-26 draft school calendar, first reading.
Okay, so Madam Chair, I just want to point out, again, this is a first reading. We did, at the school committee's request, put out a brief survey recognizing that school vacation week was in sort of the window that we had between school committee meetings. Bob, you have I just put together some of the results, and calendar issues, from my perspective, are very similar to snow day calls. You're not going to make a decision without someone getting sort of agreeing or disagreeing. I'm just really trying to ask that the committee, the perspective here is, by regulation in Massachusetts, we have to go 180 student days, 900 hours at the elementary level as a minimum, 990 hours at minimum secondary. And so any days that we take out of the 180, we have to add in someplace else. So we can't do fewer than 180 days. That does not include kindergarten. Kindergarten is not mandated by state regulation, so kindergarten could be as many or as few days as the committee sort of deems. So I know there's some kindergarten folks here who'd like to speak to that. So that issue is here. And so we try to include the questions that the committee had asked. There was no real clear burning sort of finding in the survey results. Bob, when we do a snow day call, when we send out messaging that's to staff and parents, it's typically over 4,000 calls that we're making. And so if you sort of go through this, you can look at what our response rate was. And so, again, the next slide, I want to thank Ms. Concession for helping me put this together and getting it out. We did have some glitches because we were using Thought Exchange, but we were using Thought Exchange through Parent Square, so we were using sort of two devices that we had to try to get translations in. But we had 857 responses, and again, a typical snow day message for us is over 4,000, so again, it's if that's significant or not, you all can make that decision. And you can see, I need to pull it up because my eyes are going. There we go. Mostly parent guardians. We had 236 teachers, which is probably, we have about 400, so a little over half the teaching staff, and we did not get too many students. Again, it was school break. Here's how it breaks out by school, if they identified. Middle, high, elementary are relatively evenly distributed. Next slide, Bob, is here the categories are broken, so let me read the, just do the questions. So the first bar is August 27th through June 15th with no snow days. Again, if we don't count any snow days, and that would be with a shorter winter break. So that would be, we would come in on that Monday and Tuesday that you looked at. The second bar would be August 27th, so that's before Labor Day, through June 17th with the longer winter break. So that would be, our last day would be on that Friday, and I have the models that you guys have seen. And the third bar is September 2nd, so that's starting the day after Labor Day through June 17th. And again, that's with no snow days. When I'm saying no snow days, that means if we have snow days that they're added after June 17th, as you know, and a shorter winter break. So those would be the three bars that we're looking at. So
Question here.
yes.
Was this taken before, did you snapshot before you edited the question, or there's some answers when this had the first dates incorrect? Because when I took it, the first question said August 27th through June 16th, which made it a longer year.
I thought that was fixed relatively quickly, but I can't tell you who answered before and who answered after. I think the point of this question was actually a greater focus on the start date and winter break, because the end date's going to fluctuate depending on weather.
Okay.
So it's kind of what I would think, but I'm in the wrong place here. I'm sorry. Let me. All right, Bob, I'm reading as I go, and I just lost the...
Question 41.
The login just ended for me. What? No, I got it. I'm just trying to... There we go. Thanks,
Do you
Lisa.
want, mine is a bigger screen,
It is a bigger screen.
because I have problems with my eyes.
He needs bigger glasses.
Yeah. Again, Ms. Massardo, you asked about the K start time. We have some folks here to address that. Again, kindergarten does not have to go 180 days. The vast majority of folks didn't have a preference. And again, is there a significant difference between 173 and 120? I think that's going to be up to the individual. But I didn't see a sort of a groundswell that kindergarten needs to start start the same day. And I think we probably have some programmatic reasons for it not doing so, which we'll hear about after going through this. The religious holidays and public holidays. And I'm going to frame this a little bit differently for folks. I think the days that we have in school and religious holidays really have no connection or correlation, I think, other than Christmas, which is a federal holiday. And what I mean by that is the committee's job here is to pick the best 180 days from the time that you say school starts until the time school ends. Contractually, our school years can't go beyond June 30th, so I'm going to say between whatever start date you have and June 30th, you all need to pick the best 180 days. If there's a day that you don't think is going to be a valuable instructional day, and if that correlates with a religious holiday, then you can make that decision, but it's not about the religious holiday, it's about the instructional day that's taking place. So certain communities that might have a larger religious representation may say that that holiday means that the instructional day would be negatively impacted, but it's not, you are either making the decision to have school or not have school, not because of the religious holiday, but because of the impact on learning. So as I told you, if Burlington had a 100-year-old strawberry festival with a strawberry parade, and that occurred every April, whatever, and it was tradition.
Why don't we?
What?
Why don't we?
Why don't we? If that would be you don't think that would be an effective day in that 180, then you could say we don't have school on Strawberry Festival Day. It doesn't need to be a religious reason. And again, I think I've told you 100 times, the first day of deer hunting season in the district in Wisconsin where I worked was a non-school day. So a lot of people frame this around religion, and religion is very important to people, and those holidays are very important to people. But the point of this exercise is to say, is there a religious day that correlates to or impacts instruction in such a way that it wouldn't happen? So in looking at this, again, the day that sort of got the most responses would be Good Friday, and you could say that's representative of the values of the community, and I think that's the day that we've discussed in the past. It's important that, from the district's perspective, that I present a secular calendar, as we've already said, but you guys can discuss the 180 days or the quality of the 180 days, whether there's a strawberry festival or a religious holiday that you want to believe is not going to be well attended for one reason or the other. Mr. Brooks, you asked me if I have a mitigation plan if 25% of our faculty are taking that Good Friday as a religious day. Again, I really don't. We don't have that many substitutes, and the dilemma would be that I would cancel school with limited notice as opposed to having it built into the calendar. But again, it's really not about Good Friday. It's about about whether you believe that's a quality instructional day given our community. So nothing really stood out, and I don't think the decision should be made based on ranking. It shouldn't be based on popularity. It shouldn't even be based on the number of people. It should be based on the instruction that's taking place or potentially not taking place moving forward. And again, that's why I'm really committed to presenting you all with a secular calendar, and then you can add in the community values that people have elected you to do. Do you feel that professional development days should remain as scheduled, aligned with weekends or holidays, or they don't have a preference? There's a reason for sort of, I didn't see a one who really stood out. It seems like families that were the largest contributor to this wanted them to extend weekends and holidays. That's harder for us to schedule people, and contractually we would need to have further conversations because we're really not supposed to have professional development on Fridays given our current labor agreement. We've made exceptions. I think the union is very flexible, but it would just require more work to do that. So I'm not sure, in hindsight, I like this question very much, but we put it in there anyway. It really is helpful for me to looking at a month like November where we have Veterans Day is typically tucked in, and what do we do with the Monday? Do we try to keep 5-day weeks or look at other things? So it seems like families like having longer breaks if we can make them happen for the limited stuff that we have. Early release, again, was there wasn't a groundswell of support or a groundswell of people saying they didn't want it. It was, again, you can look at the results, but there were people, I guess, or close to 50% said a Wednesday early release would be acceptable to them, and there were a bunch that had no preference. So you all can see the data that's there. And then the bunch of the other stuff were just a bunch of word walls, which, again, I don't think we need to go through. But those were the questions that we went through in our survey. And again, recognizing that one of the weeks was a school vacation week. Some of the feedback was people appreciated being asked, but sort of having done this quite a long time, I know the results are going to be that we're never going to please everyone with the calendar, and please keep in perspective that with the 180-day requirement, from my perspective, this isn't a life or death kind of situation. If the committee has strong feelings, we're pretty much going to be talking about one or 2 days, and the 1 or 2 days are either going to have to be added at the sort of in the year or at the end. We can't have fewer than 180 days, so that's kind of what I'm saying. Mrs. Monaco, you asked me to present or to prepare calendars that had Good Friday off, which I did, so I can distribute those if the committee wants to see this. This is the first reading, so again, you won't be voting until the next meeting. And I know there are some folks who wanted to talk about the start time, Madam Chair, so...
I would like the teachers to come up
Chrissy, Melissa, you guys want to come up?
and express their feelings. Tell us your names.
Is the mic on? Is the green light? The green light's on, yeah. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to read from this. Tell us our names. Say who you are for. Yeah, I say it in my first sentence, but this is Melissa Parnell. She's a kindergarten teacher at Pine Glen. I'm Chrissy Shepard. I am the vice president of the BEA and also a teacher at Pine Glen with Melissa. I'm here today on behalf of the kindergarten teachers in the district. We are opposed to the proposed BECC and kindergarten schedule changes. Through a recent survey of the Burlington community and educators, it was noted that the school committee signaled interest in moving the kindergarten start day to align with the elementary schedule at large. Kindergarten educators reached out to their BEA representatives en masse to push back against the initiative and the misconception that this time is somehow unnecessary to the effective introduction of Burlington's youngest learners to our schools. Because the BECC schedule is aligned with the kindergarten schedule, BECC members also reached out and expressed alarm at how the changes would affect their first days. The points expressed here have been distilled from several individuals and joint statements from us, sent to us by our kindergarten educators. While it is true that our educators provide many opportunities in the spring for incoming K and pre-K students to preview their schooling experience and support a smooth transition, there are a host of needs that must be tended to in the very first days of the school year that cannot be done in advance. The updating, translating, printing, collating, distribution of kindergarten-specific forms for our young learners, as well as reviewing the forms and submitting to identify information that requires immediate clarity and follow-up before students arrive. Kindergartners require an all-hands-on-deck approach to the start of the year, providing time for staff in the district to iron out the typical bumps and back-to-school practices allow kindergartners to enter school on their first day with positive models in place and the undivided attention of support staff welcoming them aboard. It also allows kindergarten educators to act as extra hands during the first few days. Educators also tend to hold additional just-in-time orientations, walkthroughs, and welcome meetings during these precious days for families who cannot attend their class sessions or have special circumstances. Pre-K and kindergarten educators are also the educators most inundated by emails seeking direct and detailed responses to inquiries as they prepare for the start of kindergarten. Educators also put in time creating visual supports for each new K and pre-K class, given their diverse but limited reading abilities of our incoming students. Photos of students copied, printed, and crafted into and onto their personal space give students an immediate sense of belonging and a place in their classroom. This is all at the expense of many additional hours of kindergarten teachers and IA's work. The BEA acknowledges that every role in our union is different, and we face the continuous challenge of balancing the diverse needs of our community and educators as well. It's for this reason that we stand in opposition to potential changes to our pre-K and kindergarten schedules. The longstanding arrangements of a staggered start for our youngest learners honors the advanced preparations and needs of our students as well as our pre-K and kindergarten educators. We, the BEA union, ask that you table this discussion for now. We ask our school committee members to come to any of the elementary schools at arrival or dismissal on the first day of school to see how the all-hands-on-deck approach that we take is used. Wait, I messed up, sorry. Let me read that again. We ask that our school committee members come to any of the elementary schools on arrival or dismissal on the first day of school to see the all-hands-on-deck approach that we take not only on the first day, but for the first few days. The kindergarten teachers and assistants play a vital role in helping our first graders, which of course they know, find their new classrooms. All other non-classroom teachers also help to assure a smooth start to the school year. After watching firsthand, we feel that you will better understand why we want to stagger the BECC and the kindergarten start. Thank you for listening and considering our side in the matter.
Well, thank you for that. Do you have anything you want to say, Melissa?
No. She's my support.
Madam Chair, may I ask a couple questions?
Yes, but can I ask you one first?
Yeah, please.
Where did this come from? Starting
It was a
earlier.
question that was asked about the kindergarten start time and the gap between when grades 1 through 12 start and K.
Was it on the survey? Is that,
Yeah, it was on the survey.
why was it on the survey?
It was something that was discussed by the committee when we were talking about the calendar and doing the survey. I thought it was something the committee was interested in. So there's no burning desire to change. Melissa, what we had talked about is the number of days. Is 3 days enough? Is 4 days enough? Because the draft of the calendar,
The second calendar you have proposed has a starting one day after them, which I don't think is enough.
right, so again, what I would say, your input would be if the start date moves to September 2nd after Labor Day, then we would probably need to delay the K start until the following Monday, which would be September 8th. Is that what
I
you're?
think that, yeah.
That would
That
be
would
sort
probably
of,
be
that would be
ideal.
consistent.
Yes, yes.
So that may change there. So again, this is a first reading, we're not voting tonight, but I'm saying I think that would be valuable input for the committee, that again, if the start date is after Labor Day, then we'll probably need to push the K start date, so you have the same, I think it's around 4 days that are between, that would be your recommendation.
Yeah, I think the past few years, it's kind of flexed between 3 and 4 days, but whatever time we're given, it is used to the second. We are really busy at the beginning of the school
And
year.
I think one of the years, the Jewish holiday fell, so we didn't want any of our students who were practicing during that day to miss the first day of school. So I think we pushed it later just for that reason as well. So I think there are a bunch of variables that we were looking at for the start, but
Kindergarten's gone through a lot of changes in Burlington the past few years, and it's really been difficult for kindergarten teachers and kindergarten instructional assistants to kind of adjust and catch up to that. So we were very panicked when we were told we might be starting with 1st through 12th.
Anybody have any input?
I just have a question. I understand the need for the time at the elementary school, but I'm not necessarily following why, like the BECC, what are those teachers do? Like, they're not helping out with other grades, right? So
There's a lot of prep work, and they have even more limited language than the kindergartners do, so they're having a lot of photos on lots of things. They're identifying all the places in their classroom. A lot of names that you have up in your classroom, they have pictures on everything, and that changes every year with your population. So there's just a lot of, unseen work to the naked eye of what is happening behind the scenes in the classroom. And all of you are welcome to come in anytime you want. You can see what we're doing. And we went full day, our IAs lost their prep time. So they're with our students 100% of the time. So it's just sheer panic when we don't have those days at the beginning of the year.
Anyone else? Megan?
I just want to thank you both for coming and speaking. I think that your request makes a lot of sense. There's a lot that goes into making a warm and welcoming environment for new learners, some kids who may have not gone to preschool. This is their first experience. And I think it's very important to have our school adjustment counselors and all hands on deck for those kids. And they're focused on other students in other grades for the first couple of days. And then, hopefully those students are settling in a little bit more and can transition to our youngest learners, and I think that's super important. And I just want to thank you guys for everything that you do, and the people at the BECC too, because it is a lot of work, and I loved going into my children's classrooms and seeing all the pictures and seeing how warm and welcome it felt for them and just me as a parent. Thank you.
I also wanted to just say one thing about Melissa's comment. I think also, I'm not completely sure, but I think because the BECC is located here at Burlington High, I think having all of the buses, all of that worked out before parents, because that's like mostly drop off by parents for the BECC, I think that also plays a factor into why they want to follow the kindergarten schedule, if that makes sense.
does the BECC have to follow the kindergarten? Like, they could start any day, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they want to start the same day as high school.
No, I get that, but if they move
there's no
kindergarten-
regulation for either. So,
Okay, So they could have 5 days if they really wanted, right, in theory?
yes.
Yeah.
And this transportation is completely separate from the kindergarten transportation, so we've just always started, honestly, for the ease of communication, that we would say pre-K and K starts on a similar day, but there's no regulatory reason for them to do so.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
The preschool, being an integrated preschool, has a large number of children with special needs on IEPs. Is there any, Megan, you might know this too, is there any regulation about how many days they should have in school? I mean, I know with the neighborhood kids that are there, that surely is like kindergarten, but I mean, with the kids with special needs, should we have more days for them? Anyway, that's probably not a question you can answer off the top of your head, but Melissa made me wonder when she asked about that. if maybe that would be different. But the only comment I have about kindergarten is that whenever I hear about kids transferring in after going to a different kindergarten, I feel really, really bad because our kindergarten is wonderful. And I think every child in Burlington should have the opportunity to go to it. Even if it's going to kindergarten twice, they should go to our kindergarten. It's great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else at public participation? Martha?
I am okay. My voice is, I'm losing my voice. You might have to take over.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Martha Simon, as people in the room know. And this is Karen Eichenbaum. And we have a statement that we wanted to read that the rabbi, Susan Abramson, who's the rabbi of Temple Shalom Emeth in Burlington, wrote with me. We also have 15 other families in Burlington who signed it to express our concerns about the planned calendar and what our concerns are. There are other issues that are not in this, which we can talk about after if you want. But and it's the question for me is, why is it the most respectful way to respect our communities is to have a secular calendar in our public schools? Burlington is a community with many different cultures and religions. Our families celebrate and observe many different holidays, both religious and cultural. A survey was sent to Burlington Public School families asking them which public holidays should be recognized as school closures to better reflect the district's diverse religious and cultural communities. Although we believe that the intent was to give a wide spectrum of families a voice, we believe that this is not the right approach. First of all, by including Hanukkah, the survey does reveal how complex the issue really is. Hanukkah is a minor holiday, and no family would keep their children out of school during those days. Hanukkah is not comparable to Christmas. However, it is a holiday when families observe a home ceremony to light candles in the evening. Other religions' holidays are similarly complex. Each community has individuals who observe their holidays in different ways. Some holidays begin in the evening, while others are similar to Easter, being celebrated on the day of. Some families observe Diwali for 3 days, some for 5 days, and others might observe it for 1 day. Similarly, the Muslim community may all observe Ramadan, but many do not begin their observance until they see the moon on that day, and others may go by the public calendar. Some Jewish families observe 1 day of Rosh Hashanah, while others observe 2. Lunar New Year is celebrated, it's observed on different days depending on the specific community. The list goes on. These are examples of how complicated it is to determine when and how the members of every faith need to be able to respectfully and fully observe each of their faith traditions. As to the question regarding which holidays should be taken as school closures, there are 3 options. Burlington Public Schools could take all the holidays off, which would mean having school all summer, or because of the 180-day requirement. Or Burlington Public Schools could choose a finite number of holidays to take off, which pits one group against another and gives the community the impression that some faiths are more important than others. Or the decision could be made to take none of the holidays off and continue to have a secular calendar. There are school districts which have school closures on specific holidays because there are so many students or teachers who observe the holiday. Those are exceptions. Dr. Conti has given you some examples. In order to respect all of our rich, valuable communities, we should not choose 1 or 2 and ignore the rest. We should have what's called a secular calendar, as Dr. Conti has proposed for the last several years. Thank you, Dr. Conti. So how do we address the holidays? State and federal law require that all religious holidays may be observed by individual families. Families just need to tell the school why their child will be absent. Burlington Public School policies also require that teachers recognize and respect these absences by not giving tests on those days and not requiring homework that's due the next day. Say, if the holiday was Christmas, would you want your kids to have homework due the day after Christmas? If it was a school day, that kind of thing. Every family has the legal right to use these laws and policies to observe their holidays, as the Jewish community has been doing with their holiest of days. It's not perfect, but in a multicultural society, it's the only way to respect everyone. We suggest that you, as a school district, find effective ways to make sure that families understand what their rights are, as I've mentioned before, and guarantee that the teachers allow accommodations for these observances. We do sometimes hear that teachers have not done that. We appreciate that the school committee and the Burlington Public Schools administration is attempting to reach out to hear different voices and to listen to student voices. However, the best way to accomplish this is to use a secular calendar so that every member of our Burlington community feels equally respected. And it's signed by Rabbi Susan Amberson, myself, Martha Simon, Karen Eichenbaum, who's here with me tonight, Tom Ballas, Fran Rosenberg, Alicia McGee, Jen Snyder, Lisa Arsenault, Asheen Fancy, Marissa Leppo, Phyllis Neufeld, Danielle Rakowski, Barbara LaRue, Aid Hode, Rachel Hode, Sue Mayo, and Fran Bloomfield. And I wanted to see, did you want to add anything at this point, or?
I just want to say that we moved to Burlington when my daughter was in the 6th grade during pandemic. And it was such a great, incredible experience for her. And we've never had any problems observing our religious holidays based on the secular calendar. Just email the teachers in advance, let them know she's going to be out. They make accommodations, no tests are given. So we've had really positive experiences in living in Burlington, and it's amazing. One thing, though, I did get caught up in was when Good Friday was called off at the last minute. Yeah. For school closure. It just so happened that I worked in a department where I was the token and asked to work that day. And because there was no one else to cover for me, I had to bring my daughter to work with me, which wasn't the best, but I was able to work it out. So it's just more the advance notice to give parents, if teachers know. PTO, everyone has a right to PTO, but if everyone's taking the same PTO off, and we know it's going to impact the schedule, the parents just need enough notice to make accommodations. That's all I wanted to say on that.
Right. Thank you.
So, I mean, I do think that most teachers are respectful when there's a request, for a student to be out. I think that the 2 points that we made are that we need to be sure our parents who aren't familiar with those laws and regulations know about it, that families who are maybe immigrant families and don't know that they have the right to keep their child home for their holiday, certainly if there's something we can do to reach out to them. And also that I think most of the teachers are very respectful, but to be sure that it's not a problem, because we've had coaches who penalized athletes because they were out on the Jewish holidays. We've had, teachers who I get complaints, and, you don't necessarily hear about all of them, but it is an important issue that is still can be a problem, and I would hope that you can address that.
Thank you. Anyone on the committee want to speak specifically to these comments, or do you want to talk about the calendar, or where do you want to go?
Just want to say thank you. Thanks for sending the letter in advance, too.
this is the first reading, so are we leaving the thought exchange open, or we can, obviously, folks can take a look and.
Yeah, we probably should talk about it.
This is 1A. And then, so what you're receiving now are the same calendars that you got last time, 1A, and 2, but with, as requested with Good Friday, off, because I think the feedback is if we're going to not have school that day, we should probably just do it in advance so people can plan. And again, the process was the calendar was sort of jointly worked on with the Joint Labor Management Committee. That is basically staff and my administration. Does not include parents typically when we've sort of done this. I know the one that I was endorsing was 1A, which was the start before Labor Day, which was 2 student days before Labor Day with an extended winter break. So that would be the 1A. The federal holiday, again, aligned with Christmas, only falls on a Wednesday or Thursday, I think, every 5 or 6 years. So the opportunity to sort of, the question about when to go until the break is typically only gets tricky 2 years out of 6 or 7. So I think staff appreciated having a bit of a longer on-ramp to the winter break this year, ending on a Friday. So I think that was conveyed both by myself and the staff that I work with. So again, I think your decisions are really when to start. If you want to start after Labor Day or before, I think if the choice is to start after Labor Day, we're just talking 2 days, so it's not, again, that significant. I think we should make up those 2 days, then shorten the winter break by those 2 days so that we absorb them there. And then obviously you have to determine whether you want to add Good Friday. The professional development days, I think, Lisa, you've already started to book people for the days because we have to do that work a long time in advance. But it is possible for future years, what we've done in the past, again, the pendulum seems to swing back and forth, is we could front load some of those professional development days, and that would shorten the student year if we needed to do some of that. So the hard part in moving that now is you already have some of the people booked.
We've already had some of the people booked. They're very hard to get, and the plans have already been put in place.
So that's sort of part of the challenge that we have.
All right, Melissa.
So you mentioned quality of learning or instructional days, and I very much worry that when we have these dangling Thursday, Friday, Mondays in June, that those become water park and movie days.
Exactly.
So I'm in favor of attempting to get out as early as humanly possible, which gives us wiggle room for the no snow days that we seem to have lately, and then hopefully end us before the federal holiday on the 19th. If that needs to be accomplished with the shorter winter break and the starting before Labor Day, I think that puts us in the best position. I'm also not in favor of taking off Good Friday. I think culturally, the day before April vacation would be a better day to take off if we're looking for a day when people are going to be out. But I think based on that survey, it was almost half people said no holidays off, and then the other half is, like Martha pointed out, widely dispersed amongst other holidays. So I much prefer the all or nothing approach there.
Okay, anyone else want to speak?
I am personally in favor of having Good Friday off. I think it's smart planning. I want to echo the sentiments of years past where we've had a large number of teachers call off or say that they're going to be observing Good Friday, which they have every right to do, and that leaves parents and families dangling, going, oh gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to find childcare? And it's also begs the question, if we are able to open, but there are still a lot of people out, what's the quality of the education our students are receiving that day? And when we have time on learning hours, we want to make sure that they are strong time on learning hours, and there's still time left in the year if we're talking about April. June, everything's winding down, and kids really like those days that are sort of fun. But a day in April where we're still really working and students are learning, and I think it's important to make sure that we're using those hours appropriately. Also, I've heard from families over the years that they prefer an after Labor Day start, and I think that the survey showed that. So this is the draft 2 is the one that I'm leaning towards.
Where did it show that they prefer the after Labor Day start?
The response is 41% said after Labor Day.
Right, but the other was more than half before Labor Day, right? Because the other 2 options were both before Labor Day. It was a poorly worded question. We should have separated the start and the length. They were combined, but I think there was 2 questions that started August 27th versus just the one. So when you combine the 2, I think more voted for the 27th.
But there were different options also within those questions.
Well, that's my point, is that I think it was a poorly written question.
Jeremy, do you have an opinion? You want me to go to Catherine?
You can go to
Yeah, I
Catherine.
mean, I don't have quite, you all have expressed a lot, but I personally like the idea of starting after Labor Day. When I grew up, that was kind of the tradition. It's difficult when you go to school a couple days and then you have a Monday off, and, particular, if you're trying to plan any kind of travel just before school starts to visit family, when you have family out of state, which we've always had. So it makes it very difficult to have that last hurrah, and you start and then you got to come back. So I like to start after Labor Day. And again, looking at the survey, I also interpreted it the same way, that it seemed that people favored that. And then I recall, I think, twice that we did not have the Good Friday off, and people ended up in the situation that was mentioned tonight, where you're scrambling at the last minute to try and find someone to watch your kids, and it's much better to prepare in advance. And, I think it's better to plan ahead, and knowing that this is kind of the history of the town and the teachers and people taking that time off, that we go ahead and make it easier on the parents and get the Good Friday off. So that's just my opinion.
Madam Chair, just with the Labor Day, it's actually, there are years when Labor Day is September 5th or 6th or 7th, and so
Right.
starting after Labor Day then is kind of problematic.
Yeah.
So this would be a year that we could potentially do it, because Labor Day is the 1st. So again, we're talking a 2-day shift, so it's not I know every day is significant, but I guess what I'm saying is we're not losing a week on one side or the other. So.
Jeremy, you want to weigh in? Or
No, I'm going to hold comment right now. Like I said, there's a lot of input to chew on, so I'm not really ready to make a comment.
Okay. I'll make a comment because it's been driving me nuts looking at all these calendars. So what I did was I asked everyone I could who has children either in elementary, middle, or high, and the answers that I got were in big capital letters, start after Labor Day. I hate going back before Labor Day. Personally, I think it's great to go back before Labor Day because, the kids are pretty much ready. But as Catherine said, it really messes up that week just before Labor Day. And my experience over the years is that people would say to me, back when we used to always start before Labor Day, they'd say, why? Why can't we start after? And then you, Dr. Conti, you made an effort to start after Labor Day when it worked, like this calendar would work. And when it didn't work, then we went back to before Labor Day, so it was, it wasn't always the same. But what I'm being told is people want to start after Labor Day. I'm also being told that they don't want to have to find childcare, working parents on Christmas week, that they want their kids in school that week. And I don't, as far as Good Friday goes, I am very staunchly in favor of it being a day off. And the reason for that is because we have over 100 staff members that don't show up. And our kids only get 180 days of school. And to have one of them without staff members, one year when we did hold school, they were sitting in cafeterias, they were sitting in auditoriums, we couldn't get enough subs. That is a totally wasted day for our kids. It could be Fat Tuesday, and if all the teachers were taking it off, I would want it to be a day off for the kids. So it doesn't matter that it's Good Friday. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's a religious day. To me personally, it has to do with the fact that we don't have quality education on that day, and I cannot support having school on a day when the kids will not get a decent education. So that's my input. Jeremy doesn't want to talk about it.
This is a first reading, so we'll have it on the agenda for next time. I just want to ask the committee if there's any other information that you all need prior to the next reading. Again, you can either tell me now or please send me an email. So you can only divide up 180 days so many ways, and so if you have any ideas, we can certainly try to incorporate those.
There's a hand up online.
Okay, who is it?
Liz DiTucci.
Liz, go ahead, Liz.
Hey there, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So just a question. I grew up in Burlington. We did have school on Good Friday as I grew up. So I'm confused where we changed.
I can help
I know
with
COVID. I know COVID threw a wrench in things, and we had some staffing issues, but that was also a COVID thing combined. So, Dr. Connie, my question for you is, do we have teacher input on Good Friday? Are we asking them in advance what they prefer? Some of them answered this survey. Can you pull out what the teachers said about Good Friday? And by the way, my point of view is, I actually don't have a strong preference on starting before or after Labor Day. My goal is that I don't think there's a ton of learning happening in late June, fun or not. I just don't think there's learning happening, and that's why our kids are going to school. So with the June 19th federal holiday, there's nothing we can do about that. So I want as much buffer as possible so these kids aren't going to school on June 20th.
Dr. Conti, before you get into your answer, Liz, I don't know exactly what you're remembering, but we always had Good Friday off until about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and at that point, we went with the secular calendar, and we had 2 disastrous years in a row. The first year was we did have school, and the kids had no teachers, and the second year, because there were so many teachers out, we had to call school off the day before. But prior to that, Good Friday was always a day off in Burlington.
Got it. I'd go back to Jeremy's question then, which is, what is the mitigation plan to make sure we've got staffing? It's a very weird day that we seem to be stuck on when there's so many other religious holidays to consider. So thanks for the comments.
Dr. Conti, you want to answer the rest of it?
Sure. We could look at individual teacher responses, but the way sort of the teacher contract is written is teachers get sort of 5 days. They can either be 3 personal and 2 religious, or 3 religious and 2 personal, to use at their discretion. So someone could answer the survey or not answer the survey, or I wouldn't deny them the day if they put in for a religious holiday for Good Friday or for any other religious day. So Liz, it's not, I can't even set a deadline, so I can't say, let me know by September 15th, if you plan on taking Good Friday off. Most people do. I'd say they're very courteous, and most people have their religious days mapped out for the year. But in the days when we've had to cancel school, we've had people requesting that day off at different times, which again is absolutely their right to do. So it's just a hard thing to plan around. So, and again, I'm Chrissy Robinson, who wrote the staff and is online now answering these questions, said 26% of staff who responded wanted Good Friday off. 48% said no holidays or none, and 26% is roughly around, again, we typically have around 100 people out, which is, again, roughly 25% of our teaching staff. So it's really hard. It's a hard day for us to create even a modified instruction with 25% of our teachers sort of out at that time. We would never have enough per diem substitutes to sort of account for all that. So I think that's always been the dilemma. So we plan as well as we can, and again, but people have the right to take whatever religious or whatever personal reasons they need for days off, and there are some limiting factors in the contract, but we wouldn't limit anyone who said they had a particular religious observance that I wouldn't, so that they wanted to celebrate. So I think that was about 25%, Liz, to answer your question specifically, of the respondents.
Thank you.
I guess I kind of do have a question now after we've unpacked all that. Apologize for jumping in late. But
Go ahead.
So if we have a known of 25% of the staff being out, and there's no way to mitigate it, I just, if it's a known, how can we not mitigate it, right? Like, that's just where I get stuck on some of this discussion, because, substitutes are licensed in Massachusetts, yes, don't have to be special for the town. Is there other towns that, are not utilizing those folks? Like,
They don't all have to be certified.
to my point, right? So it's a known for a staffing challenge, and I can't believe we can't at least have some mitigation, at least proposed, that we would look at, That's where I'm getting stuck with my decision, honestly.
There's a tremendous shortage of substitute teachers.
There is.
And then you have all the other towns who are trying to pull those substitute teachers on a Good Friday or another day that's popular religious observance. It can get very tricky.
And there are many communities also that have, say Dover, Sherwin, some of those communities have a lot of the Jewish holidays off because the majority of their staff and students celebrate those holidays. Now, that evidently is for a religious reason, or at least it used to be that way. I don't know if they still have them off or not, but I think what we're saying here is that we don't want the kids to have a day that's wasted sitting somewhere without a teacher. And therefore, what do you do?
I would like to point out that if we have a single snow day in this draft 2 calendar, we're going on Monday, June 22nd, is our last day. So I don't think pushing.
Is that with school in that week in December?
Short December after Labor Day. I think draft 2 is what Friday off. Our last a single snow day pushes us an entire week. So we want to talk about interrupted travel plans or days that people aren't attending or days that kids aren't learning. I guarantee you June 22nd is going to be that day.
Well, it very well could be. We could have 5 snow days, and we'd go to the 26th.
But again, what I'm going to say is that that's the end of the school year where you pretty much already finished everything, the courses, the grades are pretty much in, so it's a very different than the middle of the school year in terms of what you're learning. I think, I get what you're saying, but I think it's just different.
All right, this is a first reading.
We're not working towards grade level standards on June 22nd. No.
Definitely not.
We're on, this is a first reading. We're going to move on. What is it, Martha? We'll have our vote at the next meeting. Okay. But make sure that you have whichever calendar it is that you want to vote for, because there are 6 of them.
You might renumber.
I just started where I presented initially, so again, there's essentially 3 versions and of each one, and so I can renumber, Melissa, if that would be okay. I think you kind of get the gist.
Yeah.
And I think we just
we've
need
got
to
it.
communicate to parents and families and staff as quickly as we can.
Okay, we're getting a little hung up here. Martha?
I just wanted to add 2 things. One is that, whatever you do with Good Friday, certainly we don't want to have school when half the teachers are out. But if teachers said in a survey they would like to have it out, doesn't mean they would be out. So, I think those are kind of things that are unknowns. The other thing I wanted to say was that by asking parents which holidays they'd like to have off, I think that communities that are not in the mainstream, like the Jewish community, feel like, it's something that they feel they're being asked. But for people who say, I'd like to have this day and that day off, it's not in the context of what about all of the holidays. I mean, the Jewish community is probably much smaller than the Muslim community and the Hindu community in Burlington. So does that mean that a different one should be taken off? So I think that this opened up, and that's why I started the letter with feeling like that was the wrong approach, to ask which days do we want off.
I would agree with you. I don't think the survey helped.
I just wanted to add that I wanted, for people who in other communities, this is an issue that's important for, providing respectful, equitable education to all of our students and all of our families and how they observe their holidays. So,
That's what
thank you.
matters. Thank you. Okay. We'll put this off till the next meeting, and we're dragging here.
Yep.
Chair.
Hello, I have my hand up.
Yeah.
Okay, who is it?
FW.
Hi, my name is Fallon Woodbury. I work at Marshall Simons Middle School. I'm also a parent in the district. I have 2 comments to make. One, the first is that I just want everybody to know that the buildings are still open during these breaks in time. So people who work full year still are working during these breaks. So for instance, if we have 2 weeks off for Christmas break, for me as a secretary, since I'm a full year employee, if I wanted to take that time off, I have to take vacation days. So that's just one point that it's fine. I'm a full year employee. I totally understand my contract, but I just wanted people to know that the buildings are still open, so full year employees still are required to work. And the second point is I am kind of in shock about the fact that we're comparing learning in April to learning in June and saying one is more important than the other. I don't think that's a fair thing to say as to why we should have one day off as opposed to another. I think all days of learning are important. I don't think that it's fair to make that comparison, and I think having Good Friday off is, I personally am against it. I have to work anyways, but I also agree with Martha's statement in the fact that we have kids of so many nationalities, religions in Burlington, and I like to think that we are a melting pot and that we are respectful towards all religions, not just one. And I do think that if you show consistency in your message with having Good Friday be a school day every year, that teachers will realize that and plan ahead and stop taking it off. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Assistant Superintendent's Report.
Yes, and my report will be for 35 minutes and 3 seconds. I'm joking, okay? No, I want to congratulate. I just have wonderful news. Want to thank also the hard work of our school counselors. They are about to receive, or they're being recognized for the MASCA Excellence in School Counseling Program Award. This is a very big award. It's to honor the school counseling department, which is created a comprehensive school counseling program. And this is a huge award, and we were recognized for, again, our excellence in the school counseling program. And that means that we were recognized for delivering presentations to community members in 3 areas: in academics, personal, social, and also workplace readiness. And these groups of people we are going to be honored by the state for that. So congratulations to the Director of Mental Health, Chrissy Concession, and to all of our hardworking school counselors. It's a huge award.
Great. That is exciting.
That's it.
Comments? Congratulations.
That's really great.
Is that your whole report?
Yes.
That's it.
Wow.
I'm going to save it up for next time.
Okay, next time it'll be 45 minutes instead of 30, but you got it. All right. Field Subcommittee recommendations. Dr. Conti, are you presenting this? Or what's our story here?
I can jump in and start the conversation while Bob gets stuff pulled up. So since, was it October now?
Hang on, this would be a first reading. There won't be any vote on this, right? Yeah.
So we've been meeting since October to kind of put in place the minimum viable product, if you will, for what the Marshall Simon Field renovation will look like based on what town meeting approved. From those meetings, we've come up with a list of kind of must-haves and are to the point now where we're ready to make a recommendation to the school committee to move it forward. The notice of intent has been filed with the Conservation Commission. We have another meeting with them on the 27th. So we'd be looking to get the school committee's approval for our recommendation for what the field will contain and then what will be on it, so we can continue moving that along, keep the project on schedule. Why this is kind of important is we need to complete the notice of intent portion of this and then move to bid rather quickly so we can secure the best price for the field moving forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Cuna and then Arson from Nezra.
Yeah, unfortunately, Arson had to step away. He just texted me because of family matters. But, so items that the committee has confirmed, we'll have some explanation afterwards, but this would be a turf fiber field, so that would be replacing the grass. The infill mix of crumb rubber and sand, which is a mixture of silicon as well. An accessible walkway from the upper level of the back parking lot down to the field, a perimeter walkway around the field, LED lighting, scoreboards for both new fields, end netting, that is netting on both ends, one going towards the existing turf field and one going into the wetlands behind it, center netting to separate the two fields, additional 3 accessible parking spaces on the backside parking lot closest to the field behind the gym, and nature seating with a paved row. And a paved row means the nature seatings have block, grass, a block, grass, and I'll show you a picture of that. But we've determined that the 5th row would at least be paved all the way across from the accessible walkway to provide at least 3 access points, top, almost middle, and bottom of the nature seating to have hard surfaces as opposed to just a grass surface to make it more accessible. I can zoom this picture in a little bit, but this is a brief description or almost a complete drawing, and the reason I say almost is that a notice of intent has been submitted to Conservation. That means this is what we intend to do, but we are waiting for their decision, and if they do have any decision that is not included in these plans, then we may have to make some adjustments. So what you see in front of you shows the 3 additional parking lots. This outline right here is the existing school and gymnasium. This walkway is already here, and this walkway is already here to the field, and here is the existing turf field and track. Accessible walkway would come all the way down this way and then back this way to keep the accessible grade. The nature seating is right here off the existing hill. The 5th row is right here, so that would be paved, which would connect to the accessible walkway. These 3 parking spaces would be added, again, from the parking, since there is no technical parking at all, let alone handicap parking spaces in that area. There would be some wall and obstructions to allow a car to drive onto the field, and there would also be room on both sides for loading and unloading as well too. This picture shows the 2 fields. The red is the separation. This is also turf. but that is part of the field as well. There is a perimeter walkway around the whole entire field, and then a walkway that connects to the existing track and back to the parking lot on the front side of the building. There's 4 light poles that are looking to be replaced, upgraded, and added because there's a multiple use of lighting on the field right now. And if I could go to the next picture, this just shows a little bit more color. The next picture talks about, I'm going to zoom out for a second. The committee was tasked with picking out which type of fiber. So there's a monolithic fiber with THATC. I can't explain exactly what that means. And then there's a dual fiber one, which is what we currently have on the front field at Marshall Simons and on Varsity Field. And basically what it does is it gives you, one gives you a taller fiber, one gives you a wider fiber, and by having the mix of that, it really simulates closer to real grass than having one consistent blade. So we're looking to keep that consistency across, most of our fields. This is showing the infill that was selected by the committee. In every one of these solutions, this silicon sand would be an additional compound as well too, because we need that for drainage and to fill in some density. But SBR is a type of rubber that was chosen by the subcommittee. On the next slide, this is not the exact picture, but very similar to what we're talking about when we say nature seating. What we discussed would be approximately a 10-foot row from the front edge of the seat all the way back to the next wall. The wall would be 18 inches high to the top of the next seat. And again, you could sit on this area or you could sit on the grass area. On the 5th row, the grass area would be paved. So that would be a hard surface to be able to traverse, again, from the accessible walkway all the way across this area. And then LED lighting. Again, this is not our field, but this is Musco lighting that's proposed. And one of the specialties of LED lighting is that they can be programmed to have hard lines. We have that on our fields now, and it really stresses the fact that you can design either a walkway or access to a building or around a net. You can really dial in exactly where you want that light to stop and designate how much bleed off there are into other areas. And that's the last slide I have. So, like I said, what we're looking for tonight, and I'll turn it back over to the chair of the subcommittee, is that this board, to support the decisions and the work that's been concluded by the subcommittee so far, and if the recommendation comes back from the Conservation Committee that they are in agreement with what's been proposed, that then we would seek the services of Ms. Kasha to make sure that we can go out to bid in a timely manner to get this project underway. Now, if Conservation were to say they have some suggestions for us, then again, through the subcommittee, we would work with Conservation to see what mitigation we need to move forward, but also be looking to, within reason, move forward to bidding if the mitigation recommended by Conservation is minimal.
So if I could, what Bob was trying to say, and I think really what I'd be looking for as the committee, or the chair of the committee, was really contingent vote next meeting, respecting that Conservation hasn't completed their work, so really the portion we're talking about is the wetland replication on the far end of the field. There's some questions, some outstanding due-outs for that, and then some due-outs for the substrate materials as well. So we're going to work through that. Conservation's been very helpful. They've provided us a lot of information. We've been providing them a lot of information, so it's been a really good back and forth. There's just items we have to close out, right? So we'd be looking for a contingent vote that says, yep, we support the major features of the field, contingent upon notice of intent approval from Conservation. Anything we vote on will be within scope, within budget that's been provided for the project with contingency available.
Looks great. It's beautiful.
And then, like I said, just some of the things that I kind of wanted to, toot the horn on is we really kept an eye on accessibility. We built in accessible features everywhere we could. The scoreboards in the back have a really wide viewing area, so they picked scoreboards that allow spectators from the nature seating to view it, even if they're on the far, left side of the nature seating, where Bob has the cursor right now. So you'll be able to see the scoreboards no matter where you're sitting on the fields. So we took a lot of consideration there. Notices have been gone out to abutters for lighting concerns. We're set up a meeting with them. We really want to, learn from things we're hearing from other committees about showing folks where the light bleed off ends and things like that. So we've been very mindful of that and been trying to communicate out as well. And then there's some additional paths in for emergency services coming down from the ADA spaces on the top, and then for getting an ambulance in from the far side if there was an injury or something like that, or we wouldn't hinder getting those folks onto the field to provide emergency services.
Okay. Any comments, questions? It's just, it really looks great. When do you think, if all goes fairly smoothly, when do you think the field will actually be able to open?
We plan on it opening in conjunction with school opening.
In the fall?
Mm-hmm.
When would the work be done, over the summer?
A little bit before that. In an ideal situation, again, through the chair, sorry. Yeah, in an ideal situation, hopefully if we could start end of April, beginning of May.
Yeah.
About a 2.5 to 3 month timeline for construction.
Yeah.
So, that's a really short timeline that all hinges on conservation agreeing in a timely manner, and then us working through the bidding process to get that out, and then having bidders reply that are able to work within those timelines. So,
Is that field area actually larger than the front field? It looks big.
Yes. So it's two MIAA regulation fields with safety runoff. So where you see the red portion of the field, that's actually safety runoff. And then there'll be a collapsible net down the middle so you can separate the field. So if you want to have a soccer game and a lacrosse game at the same time, you're not going to be winging lacrosse balls at kids and stuff. So we definitely kept an eye on safety, and then trying to keep people out of the wetlands with the netting on either end, far into the field as well.
Netting right there.
Okay, anyone else want to ooh and ah over it? I just think it looks beautiful.
Not out from, so just a quick question.
Right where the building is.
So if people need to use the restroom, is it all porta potties again, or can you get into the building? Because I remember
field house bathrooms were not in the scope of this project and never were.
Yeah, I didn't think that. I just wanted to know
Is there a
the situation, if
place
there was
to
any.
put them if they were to be a separate project?
Well, again, a little bit more complicated than that, Bob. So
Yeah, I think there's multiple options on the table. So we currently have porta potties on the front field right now.
They're pretty gross.
It was bad, I remember, for.
Right. We
when the chair
have
was awful.
two
Very gross.
exterior bathrooms that are functioning right now and available. They're not unlocked all the time, so
Right.
depending on the event. But we do have that, so that was a warrant article as well a year or two ago that we did, so we renovated those bathrooms. We're working on renovation plans right now, again through warrant articles, to work on the existing locker rooms and at the middle school. So while we don't have a definitive plan that says we will have X number of bathrooms yet, that's some details that we're working on, and what you'll see tonight in front of you, if you all choose to support it, and so does town meeting, that there may be a request for a bathroom facility at Marshall-Simons. So some things to mitigate, some things to look forward to, and again, more conversations to be had.
I wouldn't say the porta potties there the past couple of years have been that bad. I mean, it's not ideal, but they're not that terrible.
Again, the building is much closer to this project than obviously Varsity Field is to the high school. So
Yeah, but it's still up a huge hill.
again, not if you're sitting in the landscape seating, but again, it is up a hill. It is closer. Yeah.
So hopefully sometime we'll get them.
Hopefully.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, do you have anything else?
No, just if we could, if there's any questions from the committee, if you could funnel those to myself, Mr. Wojcik and Mr. Kuna, we'll address those, and then I'd like to put an agenda item for next meeting to get a vote
this.
to support.
Okay.
And, Madam Chair, the only thing I'd say is I think Mr. Brooks put together a very well-represented and diverse committee, and I think the meetings that I've been at, they've been very engaged in the process. So I do think there's been a lot of input. A lot of people have volunteered lots of time to make these recommendations. So, Jeremy, thank you for doing all that coordinating, and thank them for their time.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Next item.
Next item.
Elementary schedule working group.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is, we're not going to solve the world's problems tonight. It's getting late. We have other agenda items to get through. But really what I wanted to make sure we talked about in a very concrete way to the committee is you heard a lot about the recommendation of a new comprehensive literacy program, K-5. The program has requirements in terms of time, and it also embeds science and social studies curriculum and standards into the program. So it really requires 120 minutes of ELA or literacy in grades K through 3, and then 90 minutes in grades 4 and 5. So really what I wanted to do is map that out. My staff has been working on it. Sean has been working on it collaboratively, so I think we're not doing this in secret, but what I want to make sure that if we're going to spend a significant amount of money that you'll see in the capital warrant on this literacy program, that we have to have the minutes of instruction to support it, as well as sort of the professional development schedule to do that as well. We're not going to talk about the professional development right now, but what I wanted to show you and share with you is what potentially that day or week could look like, and then I don't want to start in the fall if we're going to move forward, and for someone to say, why don't we have science scheduled? So this is sort of really one of the things that we're...
Why don't we have science scheduled?
Okay. So I think that...
I couldn't resist.
I know. Some of the... it's hard to read, I appreciate, and I can sort of talk through the colors, but there was some concern about special ed services being delivered. So, Mr. Wojcik, I know that you wanted some specifics there, so I wanted to highlight that we do have the One I Need blocks sort of incorporated in. We've actually lengthened some of them, so hopefully we can get some more services in. But if you look at grade 1 as an example, the 120 minutes do not need to be contiguous, so the green blocks would be sort of ELA, and then we're also getting in 60 minutes of math. We obviously need lunch and recess that are built in, and then specials need to be built in. So the schedule looks sort of simplified from what you're used to seeing, but understand that during that 120 minutes of literacy that there's also social studies and science standards being incorporated. And again, in grades 4 and 5, we don't need that additional time for ELA, so we can do a better job separating out science and social studies. You can see at the end of the day in grades 4 and 5. So it's more of a distinct subject area starting in grades 4 and 5. This is still a work in progress. We still need to find 30 minutes a week for our SEL, whether that's incorporated into a special. We're working through some of those conversations, a special block, but this is really what the elementary day needs to look like in the adoption of a comprehensive literacy program like CKLA. And at least I just want to give you a chance to talk about that too. But it's not just about purchasing a program. We have to make sure that the day represents represents what the program requires, or else we're not going to get the full benefit of the program.
And to add to what Dr. Conti was saying, first of all, I want to applaud that This actually came from a consensus from our teachers, particularly wanting to have this program CKLA, knowing that in grades K through 3, for this program to be done with fidelity, you must have 2 hours. You cannot shortchange this program. We've asked that question. We visit schools. It can't be done. And then grades 4 and 5, you can have it more so 90 minutes. Now, the one thing that we also was very much aware is when we started to take a look at this, and thank you to Mr. Musselman, who is sitting in the back for his assistance with this. The area that you cannot break out, they have both a skills area in grades K, 1, 2, and 3, and then you have the knowledge block. If you need to do a little bit of pull-out, for instance, or anything along, that's where you can do a little bit of pull-out if you have more extensive services. However, that 60 minutes of your skills block is an area that it just needs to be really focused on students learning about coding, decoding, etc. In grade 3, why it's 120 minutes is that because at this point in time, the skills and the knowledge have been integrated. The recommendation is also that even if it's a 2-hour block, for instance, the recommendation for really K, 1, and 2 is that you break up the 60 minutes. You can have 60 minutes for the skill. Then you can break it up in between. So students, for instance, could be getting a little recess. They could be getting other things as well, too. And then you can go back and do the knowledge block for 60 minutes. So there's a very nice cutoff. That's how the program has been designed. Once you hit 4th and 5th grade, 3rd is your transition year, 4th and 5th grade, it is more of the combination of your skills and knowledge that have been integrated. So a nice 45 minutes is what they suggest of 45 minutes. You have a nice sequence to break it up, and then 45 minutes. And they do not need to be back to back, because that was the question that we asked.
And just the last thing, we've talked about this a lot. This is still a 6-hour, 5-minute student day. This does not lengthen the student day or change the student day, so this would allow the bus tiers to remain as they are. And I'm sorry to always connect the bus schedule to length of student day, but it's a factor that we have to consider here. If we want to make significant changes to the length of day, which again, we certainly can, we would have a hard time getting that done, I believe, between now and when we sort of need to move this forward. So we can make changes. If the committee is sort of against this type of schedule, then we would need to potentially change our implementation schedule or continue to look at different types of programs, because it's just not going to be something that we can.
And also to be sensitive about the question that was raised, and I really appreciate looking at all of our students. I asked also the Director of Special Education, Christina Ciccolini, and also Dr. Bonnie Nichols, who is the interim coordinator, to really focus on and work with Sean Musselman to give me, with this work for our students who are on the more significant severe, and they needed a greater amount of minutes when it comes to pull out. And yes, a schedule like this would not provide them with the disruption that would be. So this schedule still works for our kids who are extremely in need of more services. I asked for that lens to be focused in on this as well, too.
Okay, are there questions from the committee? Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the questions I had is, actually two really. So one, you mentioned there's a 30-minute block that still has to get wedged in for SEL. Is there an opportunity to do some balancing with those minutes? As we implemented SEL, we saw a negative impact in other areas. So is there a way to balance that or reduce the SEL minutes to provide more time on learning for other subjects where we're lagging? And then the other question I had is, as this breaks up for grades 1, 2, and 3, you have the skills and content block, and then it goes to separate subjects for grade 4 and 5. Right now we're living through some realignment through math from 8 to freshman year. Have folks that have implemented this system seen any of those challenges from a 5th to a middle school, like we're experiencing with math? So, is there a curriculum misalignment at the end because they haven't had dedicated dedicated science time or dedicated math time like they did previously?
Again, lots of different questions. So they are getting science standards and science instruction. It's just embedded into the literacy program. So that is what I would say. The math block hasn't been impacted. So there's a 60-minute math block. So I think Lisa's going to be looking at what's taught during that time. But again, from a scheduling perspective, it's a kind of a low-level conversation, Mr. Brooks. It's kind of like, how many minutes do we have for that subject area? And so that hasn't been impacted. I think we're looking at what content is covered in that time to prepare students for grades 6, 7, and 8 as we move forward. And I'm respectfully pushing back. I'm not sure your conclusion about the SEL time, the impact is causal. I think there are lots of other benefits to the SEL program that we have. Do I think we can do less than 30 minutes a week? The answer is probably not. That's what that program requires. But can we potentially incorporate those lessons into a specialist block or another time? Or is there alignment between some of the lessons, which is really about building community, and some of the other lessons in our other programs? The answer is absolutely. We just need time to do that type of development. But it's probably not going to look like a separate 30-minute block, but we have to have those skills because those skills are critical. And SEL skills are highly correlated to student achievement in
I can agree. I'm not disagreeing with that.
across the board.
Is there other ways to look at scheduling?
I think there is. We're still working on it. But again, I'm trying to make this as concrete as possible for the committee, because counting minutes isn't a great thing to do, but at some point we have to make sure the student day and the work day align. And Lisa's doing much more complex work. This is very sort of it's in a way very low-level work, but the day is going to look a little bit different. And I think that's what these programs require. And again, it's not really something I don't think you all need to vote on. I'm just really trying to bring this so you can visually see what the day is going to look like, how we're going to break it up. We still have music lessons. There are still other opportunities for students. I like the idea, as Lisa said, that there's a skill block and sort of an applied block, because there may be students who need more skills, and then they wouldn't miss. You're not supposed to pull them from the skill block that they're getting to get another skill block. So it sort of allows us to double dose the skill block, which would be the right thing to do. So.
And the program also allows, one of the things that we started to take a look at the program is what I've heard also from parents is that they want to ensure that the students who are above grade level are receiving the rigor. This is what this program is going to also allow us to do, that we're going to have more time and more focused time to look at not only enhancement of the curriculum, but also continuing on with interventions that are needed. And to your answer, Jeremy, you are absolutely correct, and that is something we're looking into, always embedding the social emotional learning in everything that we do. I'm hearing you. And we're going to still be working on in the pathway as we're growing. While it is from 6 through 12 right now, what we're going to do is eventually going to impact what happens in K 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in math, but this schedule still allows for that.
Okay, anyone else? I think it looks great. I hope that it has enough in the new reading program. I hope that it has enough science and enough social studies, because I don't think the kids right now are getting enough science. So I hope that there's a lot.
And this is where I can thank Mr. Musselman, who I appreciate always his advocacy for both science and social studies, his partnership with us, and also making sure that it is going to be embedded where it needs to be embedded. And then in grade 4 and 5, we're going to put in even more.
Okay, great. Anyone else comment on this? Then I think we can move along. You want to say anything? John?
Sure.
Would you like to come up, sir?
Sure.
And thank you for your hard work on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. And for the public, Sean Musselman. I'm here really as a member of the Burlington Science Center today, but as always, BEA president. I just want to kind of reinforce what Dr. Chen has said and honoring the concerns that your board has presented around science and social studies. What I think is really important here is one that Burlington, because of its investment in folks like myself and Ms. Pavlicek, the Burlington Science Center, I believe strongly have a better opportunity than other communities that, kind of purchase what, a very literacy-centric program like CKLA is, but having people on staff who are going and already are starting to put in the work of looking carefully at these curriculums and seeing the changes that need to be made, and thinking of creative ways that we will continue to do the work that I know you all are already very aware of from when your children bring those stories home to you. I believe that will continue to happen, and this will really reinforce the research that when students are encountering complex reading and writing opportunities around science and social studies, that they make significant gains. And I'm excited to see that work in action. And I do, in my less recognized role as a social studies specialist, I can say definitively that this will bring a great deal more of rich content to our classrooms more formally and more uniformly across the district. And I'm looking forward to supporting teachers in that way as well. So thank you for your time. I will add that this is a full day schedule. And it will be absolutely critical for this curriculum to get off the ground to have some sort of modified schedule that includes early release opportunities, because our teachers will need that monthly check-in with whoever it may be, curriculum leaders, grade level folks, people like myself and Ms. Pavlicek, to ensure that we're doing our best and giving them that just-in-time professional development they'll need to make this as successful as it can be. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Unless anyone has any more comments, I'm just going to keep moving. I feel like we've been spending a lot of time on each topic tonight.
Sorry, I'm sure we'll go right through the capital warrants.
No question.
Mine was only like 2 seconds.
Oh, you were like super quick. Yeah, definite rock star. All right, the next item is facilities and finance, capital warrant articles.
I guess that's me. So
That's you, Bobby.
you all have a sheet in front of you tonight, and I want to stress that this is the first time you're seeing it, so I am not looking for a vote. I'm happy to take any questions. I will not try intentionally to be fast with my responses for time reasons, but I'd be happy if you all were to send me messages, after this meeting, and then I could provide all of those answers at a future meeting. These are in no particular order. They're not prioritized, and they have not been reduced to meet any number. You're seeing the raw requests in front of you and the numbers that support them. So, the first one is a turf replacement plan. So this is asking for $150,000. This is something that would be an annual request. And the reason that we're putting this in front of you is that we know approximately every 10 years that we have to replace a turf field. And we think that having this fund, replenishing it yearly with a request request would help us when that time is up to replace a field or do maintenance on a field.
Bob, can I just jump in on that, too? It's really what we've been doing with technology for 15 or 16 years, where the town invests. There's a capital line in the town's operating budget. I think it's around $300,000, and we know every 5 or 6 years we get a new wireless network, and we don't have to go to town and ask for $1.5 million. So there seems to be, the town doesn't charge youth groups for usage of the turf fields. There's really not a funding source. And we just wanted to be kind of open with town meeting that these things have a lifespan, and $150,000 a year isn't going to pay for everything. But again, sort of, Mr. Brooks, to your idea of long-term planning, if we have $1 million every 8, 9, 10 years, we still may need more than that, but at least we're going to town meeting saying we have set aside this amount of money. The town management wasn't sure this was the right way to go about doing it from sort of their perspective. Maybe it's a town account or something. It doesn't necessarily have to sit in a school warrant, but we just want to make sure that we're communicating the idea of sustainability to town meeting, that even if the middle school fields we saw today get replaced, we know in 12 years or so they're going to need another covering, and we should just be open about that.
Sounds good. Anyone have any comment?
Just one comment from me. So this would obviously need to be coordinated and deconflicted with Recreation Department. They're looking to do something very similar. So, that sync of their master field plan and our facilities, plans, and fields that Ways and Means and others asked for last year would have to be tightly integrated, and we'd have to communicate that out very succinctly to folks, I think, to gain support for that.
Okay.
Again, thanks for the feedback. So on the next one, school facilities audit. The current one we have is from 2017, and it takes a bird's eye view and a little bit deeper dive into our 6 buildings. That does include BECC as one of our facilities as well too, but it looks at the mechanical, the plumbing, the electrical, the built-in structure itself, some deficiencies, some potential upgrades. It's about a 300-page document that we have right now, and looking to upgrade and update that. So this would be hiring an architectural and engineering firm to perform that study.
This committee did one in 2007, 2017, so you've always supported sort of every 10 years a look like this.
Yep.
We're, again, throw in a couple COVID years, we're sort of on track to try to recommend that we do it, so you have a 2025 or 2026 plan.
Well, there's one thing I just want to comment. So as Dr. Conti just said, so about 10 years, this isn't a report that gets done over the weekend, right? So while we may ask for it now, it may not happen till, let's say, maybe the summertime, and it may not be done for 3 to 6 months, right? So it's not something that would happen, like I said, relatively quickly, just because there's a lot of square footage to cover and a lot of reports to create. So again, if I can move on to the next one, this is a Green Communities grant. BMS means Building Management Systems. In conjunction with the town, we applied for a Green Communities grant to upgrade and do some installations of a building management system and VFD pumps, variable frequency drive pumps. We wrote it for Francis Wyman in Pine Glen, and graciously we were accepted into that grant, so $250,000 is available to us. The project is approximately $502,000. So you're seeing the difference of that in the request. In order for us to fulfill that request and that grant, it needs to be completed. There's a 2-year window on that, so we do have time to take advantage of all of those funds. So the next one is, again, looking at available grants to us, so a network equipment E-rate. As Dr. Conti mentioned a few minutes ago, we typically look at the town and work with the town every 5 years to do a larger network refresh plan. But because we're the school department, we actually have what's called E-rate available to us. So the town can't use E-rate, the school can use E-rate, so a portion of that equipment, which is what sits in the school buildings, is E-rateable, but the portion that sits in town buildings is not E-rateable, right? So again, this request would be up to $578,000 that's available for matching. up to. So we would be looking to offset that funding, which would help, again, with the overall town network refresh. Again, I can explain more in detail later. The next one is power washing of school buildings. Again, this has come up not only through some requests of staff or maybe this committee, but also through town residents, that maybe the buildings don't look as pretty as they could be. So this is in response to that. We have a request that is our largest building, which is the high school. And obviously, there may be some mixed opinions on whether or not the high school is the right one, but it just gives an economy to scale of what a large building would cost. And the request in front of you is to pressure wash the high school. The next one is tree maintenance. This is something that has come up constantly in my line of work is that we don't do tree work. Our maintenance department and our custodians don't. We typically would work with the rec department for any type of tree work. They have some capability limits, and then anytime we're outside of those limits, then there's always a question as to who pays for that. If it's on school property, then I'm looking to pay for it or out of the school budget. What I'm looking to do is have a account set up that would allow that funding, right? Because I don't typically plan for whether I'm going to have 1 or 5 or 10 trees. And some of my backup material shows that we have some potential trees that we're watching right now. And over the past 2 years, $40,000, $50,000 worth of trees that have need to be taken down or limbs cut off, et cetera. So, we have 200 plus acres of land of all the school properties. Where this come from? And we're just literally waiting for these trees to be maintained. So again, the next one is a building envelope and vestibule. There's 2 schools, Francis Wyman and Pine Glen, that we don't think has the best entrance, and putting a vestibule addition on the front of those buildings would really enhance the safety and the flow of traffic within the building itself. So working with an engineer and then an architect, this would have to go out to bid, but we have some design costs and specs to install vestibules at the front entrances of Francis Wyman and Pine Glen. The next one, as Dr. Conti and Dr. Chen had discussed previously, is the curriculum K through 8 literacy curriculum materials. Not sure if you need any.
And this one also includes, just so that you know, that 6, 7, and 8 will be still receiving professional development as they're looking at new curriculum. This also includes additional professional development that we want to offer, which is in letters for early childhood. I know Deb Clark and our folks are very excited about this, and also letters for our K1, for anyone K1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it is also additional professional development in with our literacy.
Thank you. Next up is a replacement generator, so a generator replacement. Pretty common. We have a couple of generators at our buildings that are within the 15 to 16, 17-year-old range, and there's only so much maintenance you can do on them. An overhaul or an engine rebuild, since these are typically car engines that we're talking about, it does extend the life to some degree, but has a cost to it, and replacement gives you more efficiency, for only a few more dollars. So this would be, like I said, replacement of a backup generator. Next is boiler room maintenance. So this one is going to focus at Pine Glen, but I think it has some district-wide benefits to it, is that this would look at some of the insulation that's in the boiler room at Pine Glen. This would look at some of the electrical system that's coming in that's a little bit outdated. And this would look at expansion tank system to help make the heating system more efficient. The boiler rooms are really just parts of the building that kind of get neglected a little bit. And we try to run them to the ground and then maintain them as can be. So some parts really just get left out to dry. So next is middle school furniture. And again, this is a request that is really to look at the library and make it a more flexible space. So this is not installing temporary walls, but this is making purchasing some flexible library wall structures, some more furniture, some flexible bookshelves, et cetera, and to really maximize the space that's there as a classroom space during the daytime, but also make it a great tech and learning space, afterwards as well. The next one is HVAC maintenance. HVAC maintenance, I think, is something that you're going to see consistently, though the dollar value may change. Last year, we did request Pine Glen to have air conditioning added. What we're looking at right now is some places that we never added air conditioning but really could benefit from. Let's say the cafeteria, art room, music room. At Francis Wyman, we definitely have some office spaces and some other classrooms that don't fit in the K through 5 classroom structure, at some of these buildings, so adding some split levels to that, and really just picking away at some of these, classroom areas where staff and students are that just don't have air conditioning. So, scoreboards and audio. I hate saying that everything that we have is old, because that's not the case, but we've been fortunate enough to maintain a lot of the equipment on a recurring cycle. So we had a scoreboard request for exterior scoreboards 4 years ago, and we're working on that at the Francis Wyman project and at the middle school. This is really for some interior scoreboards, so this would be focused mostly right now at the high school and the middle school. And happy to answer any questions on why the high school, but like I said, really focusing on where we play a lot of our varsity and junior varsity sports and the gyms that get used a lot. Next is an intercom. So this is a replacement intercom head at Fox Hill. While it's a large ticket item right now, a full system upgrade would be multiple $100,000 more than that, or at least multiple thousands more than that cost. What I'm looking to do is, we have a head, which is the head unit itself, which is the brain processor behind the intercom. Not all the speakers, not all the phones, not all the wall units. It's about 20-ish, 22 years old, and in the past 2 years, we've had multiple service calls. We've been told multiple times that getting parts for it is just not easy. Recurring theme in older buildings and older equipment, especially with technology, and looking to get ahead of this in the fact that if this were to die, the emergency replacement side of it is extremely costly and timely, and also knowing that with a new Fox Hill coming on board, this wouldn't necessarily go into the new Fox Hill, but this is definitely something that could be pulled out and used at a Francis Wyman or a high school or another school, because we use a lot of the same technology and a lot of the same controller heads in these buildings. So, like I said, definitely trying to get ahead of a problem that we foresee is coming rather quickly in a building that we know is going to be replaced in a few years. And then the last one, before I get to 3 big projects, is security upgrades. We have security wave panels at all 6 of our schools, and believe it or not, they are 10 years old. These are computers, and same as the last comment, is that they get outdated. They no longer handle the processors, the updates, the requirements that we want to add to them, the number of push buttons, et cetera, and they become end of life. So this would be to replace the 6 wave panels for the emergency systems at each one of our 6 schools. Now, we have 3 large projects in front of you, and so the middle school.
Bob, I'm sorry, just before you move on, the sort of the rough guideline number we got from town was about, 2.5?
Somewhere around 2.5, yeah.
So just so you all know that we're over, so we're going to have to
Really?
discuss that, so, and prioritize. So this is just, you're seeing sort of everything ahead of time. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you for bringing that to my and the board's attention. But yeah, exactly. So we are going to have to prioritize and reduce. The next 3 projects are something that, again, this board will have to consider. So the middle school field, as you all remember, was broken up into 2 parts. Originally, there was a $6.7 million request, and ultimately town meeting decided to break it into 2 different phases, 4.7, and then the front field resurface. So you'll see that there's a front field resurface. of that conversation came the next request that the middle school does not really have the best bathroom facilities, as also mentioned tonight. And so with that, there's a request in front of you. Just make sure you're muted. Sorry. Yeah, so there's a request in front of you that builds a bathroom/field house facility. Now, this is not a full-on locker room facility. This is more of a storage room, has the potential to maybe be a snack shack if we chose to make that happen, and then multi-gender bathroom facilities. Where we place it is obviously up for conversation, but gives us a general size large enough to host most moderate facilities, or most moderate events at that facility. So the last one, again, is in relation to the Fox Hill project and the discussion that we had prior to this meeting. There's an approximate price tag of $3.5 million. There's some inflation that we've added to this, 10%, to give you that number in front of you, but ultimately, whether the school committee or the school building committee or the town chooses a PPA or to purchase solar panels for Fox Hill, it's a decision that we'll have to make at some point. It may not have to be, during this phase of the conversations, but it is definitely something that I wanted to put in front of you, at the large dollar figures. This will also coincide with the next conversation that we're going to be having, which is the long-term school capital planning document. This will have right now all of these listed for this year on it. Any ones that get chosen will stay on the list for 2026. Anything else will get moved to previous years, following years. And again, we'll discuss the long-term plan as well as to large ticket items, what years 5, 10, 15, 20 look like, et cetera. So a lot to digest. Like I said, happy to answer questions, but I'd prefer if you all digest it and send me some emails and I come to the next meeting more prepared.
I just have a procedure.
Go ahead.
Can we get this emailed to us?
Of
Do we
course.
have it? Okay, can you also just put the school, or like slightly more, like I took some notes, but like solar panels at Fox Hill, boiler room maintenance at Pine Glen, et cetera.
I will definitely do that. I have an intention on a lot of these, let's say for HVAC. While there may be a main focus, there may be some additional
that's
focuses
fine,
to
that's fine.
broaden the use of it.
No, I was going to say the same thing, Melissa, but aren't you going to put something together like that for town meeting anyway?
Yes, I have some supporting documents. I will build a whole entire book and share it with all of you. And then also with that, we'll go to town meeting as well too, with all the town meeting warrant article request pages or capital request pages. I will definitely fill all of that out. I haven't completed it yet because I wanted to show you all these requests first.
This is going to have to get pared back, probably, likely.
Yeah, maybe some semblance of a priority, I guess.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Well, we can discuss those all again another time. Want to move on?
Sure. Again, I can put it up on the, I can present it or share my screen if you want, or we can all look at the pages that are in front of you. But I believe that I have captured the request of the school committee to put together a 20-year plan that showcases the most known items that may come up. There is some liberty on some of the dates and years as to when some school projects may or may not happen, but that, I believe, should be understandable. And as we discussed at our last meeting, the bigger ticket items that are expected in the years 10 through 20. And I did not put things such as bathrooms and smaller items, et cetera, in the years 10 through 20. But this is a living document and something that we can definitely update. But I wanted to put this in front of you all tonight and accept any of your feedback.
Go ahead.
I have to admire your optimism and thinking we can get away with spending $50 million at Pine Glen in 8 years. We have a number from the Fox Hill feasibility study. I think it's closer to 90 million. Plus we have to accelerate it.
It depends on what you do.
Yeah. I think there was an ad reno, and then there
Yeah,
was,
there's an ad reno,
and then there was a new building. And,
correct,
yeah.
but we could pick one of those numbers. None of them were 50 million.
Feedback taken.
Yeah, I think maybe just asterisk off items that are end of life, right? So if it's not a planned upgrade, if it's, we know it's an end of life item like a roof, maybe just some kind of asterisk or something on it that denotes it as an end of life item as it moves over, so folks just have that visibility a little easier.
Anything else? As you said, this is a, well, I guess it's a working document. It can change at any time. Nice start.
Yeah, we'll get a copy of this too.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. If there's nothing else on that, do you have any, Melissa, Fox Hill Building Committee, we had that tonight. Do you have any update?
We completed the detailed design. We're going to move to construction documents next. It's definitely moving forward on budget.
Great. Catherine, Building Committee?
Yep, so tomorrow is the Butters meeting in this room at 6:30. There's also a remote option available. You can get the link on the Building Committee website and on the town website. And we have another community meeting that will take place sometime in March, the date to be determined. I encourage people to look at the superintendent update for the 3D look at the 5 remaining options. It kind of helps people visualize. That's posted on BCAT and also on the building site. And then our regular building committee meeting will take place on March 13th at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, I just want to emphasize that tomorrow's meeting is an abutters meeting, and the questions and issues of the abutters will be taken first. Everyone's welcome to the meeting, but the abutters will get the priority, and then after that, other people can ask questions or bring up issues if they wish. Moving on. Facilities update, is there anything, Bob? Okay, transportation update? Okay, new or old business, anyone have anything? No? Okay, we have need for executive session, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, subsection 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the school district, and the chair so declares, relative to the BEA union contract. Is there a motion to go into executive session? We will return only for purposes of adjournment to public session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jeremy?
Aye.
Megan?
Yes.
Melissa?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're in executive session.